This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for the 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling product, Vitamin E Ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. Hey, I think I've heard some jingle bells around. I think it's getting close to Christmas. I want you to remember one thing, though. We're not just celebrating Santa Claus. We're celebrating the birth of Christ. We're a Christian group of family here, and that's our faith. We respect everyone else's faith, but that's our faith, and we're all excited about it. And we want to extend still a happy Hanukkah to our friends that are still celebrating Hanukkah. It won't be over for a bit. So today, it's only 2 days before Christmas Eve, and all the excitement. I was just talking with my engineer, Juan, and he was telling me about all the fabulous food they're having on Christmas Eve. Oh, my mouth is watering. The tamales and the carne asada and all. So that's what they're doing now. Our Christmas dinner will be on Christmas. However, the respiratory flu is going around, and we're waiting to get an all clear from my grandkid's daddy that he's over it, because we don't want to spread it to anybody. So I want you all to go out and be with family and friends. But if you're sick, please stay home and isolate. Don't think you can go out with a mask, because masks don't really work, and all they do is hide your face and nobody can see your beautiful smile. So do that, have a ball, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But remember, my Judith Mancini Today show is to help women become, and men, become healthy, wealthy, and wise. And the first thing I want to talk about today is in the news, what's going on in the news. One of the big things going around right now is the omnibus. Do you all remember what an omnibus means? What the definition of it is? The original definition is a volume now, containing several novels. And the definition of a novel is a fictitious prose. That's prose is what we read every day, different from poetry. A fictitious prose narrative of book length. Now, a book could be anything from 15 pages, or it could be like the omnibus and be 4,100 pages approximately. And hidden in that omnibus are things you would never know. First of all, I'm so against this kind of thing. They stuff them full of pork and earmarks for their local governments. For instance, a congressman or a senator can stick something in their bill that has nothing to do with the original bill, which apparently this one is supposed to be helping our recession and things in our country. Things in our country like recession, inflation, the border crisis, et cetera, et cetera. But things that are stuck in there are like in California with a train to nowhere and a bridge to nowhere and a hiking trail, and I think it's Oregon, that's named after Michelle Obama. That's $3.6 million. I'm not picking on Michelle. I'm just saying some of these things are not for the betterment of the country. I think she could really actually donate the money to have it done, to clear the trees out. But why do we have to clear the trees out? Why can't they just rename an old trail or a trail that doesn't have any name? The same thing with these other things that they're building a park for Ukraine. What the heck are we building a park for Ukraine for? Haven't we given them enough? Yesterday, President Biden said he was going to go ahead and give them the billions of dollars. So with that, we've given them almost $100 billion, and there's no accounting for it. Now, I want Ukraine to become a democracy, but there's some things coming out that I'm not too happy about with President Zelensky. One is that he has shut down a church because it's a very century-old church and beliefs, a Christian church, and he doesn't like the way that they worship. So he shut it down. Excuse me? That's not a democracy. That's not freedom of religion like we have here. That smacks of communism to me, quite frankly. That's what they do in China with the Uyghur Muslims. Then they round them up and they kill them, make them work to death. So I'm not happy about that. I don't know where all this money is going. So there's the additional $40 billion going to him. But there's also in this bill an amount of money that I believe, if I remember correctly, is about $2 million to his military directly. Why does that have to be separate? I thought that's what we were giving him the money for, ammunition and weapons. And I believe if you read the bill, I don't know who's going to sit down over the holidays and read 4,000 pages. And that's what's wrong with it. This thing is being snuck in over the holidays when all of these people in Congress are itching to get on trains and airplanes and get home. Oh, I forgot some of them have private planes. They don't have to worry so much about lining up or having it canceled. They can get on an airplane if their airport is open and they can fly around the storms and get home. I forgot that. So I also think when they've stuffed it full of pork, don't you think it should be made public before 2 nights before they're going to vote on it? It literally was released the night before last. And last night was when President Zelensky came to the United States to speak to Biden and certain Congress people that have gone to visit him. How much of this is theater? He shows up in his combat clothes, and I said to my husband, why's everybody criticizing him? I understand wearing a suit and tie out of respect for our government and how we dress in the United States. Other heads of state that come over here do wear a coat and tie, or if they're from the Middle East, they might wear their traditional robes, things like that. But I just don't understand. Now, he is fluent in English, and I appreciate the fact that he did speak in English to Congress. Many countries do not allow their head statesmen to speak in anything but their home-born language when they are out and about in the world. So I did appreciate that. And on one hand, I believe, he's been in the trenches and he does have a target on his back. So I can understand why he's kind of ready to run and go. But he could have probably brought a suit over, and I know he has them because he's been in entertainment. So we know that he does dress like that, and he did dress like that before the invasion, and he changed to his, I'll call them fatigues. So I think he could have put a suit on in the airplane and at least shown the respect for our government and our country that way, and then changed back into his fatigues for the airplane. I don't know. everything in the country is going more casual, but I don't believe that should be so when you're in a position of power or business or anything else, or just trying to be well dressed. So he was criticized for all sorts of things, but my biggest criticism is, remember before all this started when prosecutor had to be fired because he was going to prosecute Hunter Biden? Huh. Interesting, isn't it? Well, you can look that up, Google it, go duck, duck go go. What, I can never remember the name of that. So I want you to do that because I think this is very important that the public, it's your money that's going over there. And I think you should look it up to see what's going on with that money. I don't think you'll find anything. I don't think it's been broken down. We haven't had an accounting of it. I did hear one, I think it was a congressman yesterday on the news say, maybe we should break it down and give it to him monthly. Because what's going to happen if the war's over? We're going to use it to rebuild the Ukraine? We can't keep doing that and giving them our tax money because you guess what? Your benefits are going down. Where do you think they're going to get all this money eventually? They're going to get it from helping the people who are homeless, who need the Medicare and the Medicaid. They're going to take it from these different programs that are helping our people. And yet, we just keep giving this money. How can they ask you to balance your budget and cut back on your food budget and your gasoline budget? You don't need to drive anywhere for the holidays. You don't need to drive to your job where everybody has to commute in California. Some people commute for 2 hours a day in California because the traffic is so bad. They can't take the money from you when they can't even balance their own budget. $1 trillion? What comes after $1 trillion? I can't even remember. If somebody knows, let me know. It's just horrible. And the other question about all of this, Zelensky's speech last night and all, I was wondering if they had a Hollywood a Hollywood producer out here in Washington, D.C. to manage the pomp and circumstance of what would happen during his speaking to Congress. There were certain places where a few people laughed. There were certain places where they applauded, where they stood up. I think a lot of that was staged. I'm sure they were all given the speech beforehand. So I'd like to know what the producer's name is. Is it the same one who's producing all of the January 6th television coverage? Craziness. And the other part of the drama, I think, was giving each other the awards, the Time Man of the Year, Person of the Year award. Excuse me, I shouldn't say man. It could be a man or a woman or anything else these days. So I think it was nice to give it to him because I do say that I don't know of another person who could have held the communist for Putin off for this long. And I'm all for keeping the world free. And some say if we don't help them, Putin will be so excited about it that he may decide to take over some other places like Crimea, which he's already tried once and didn't succeed. So we do need to be careful. I'm not a war hawk and I'm not a pacifist. So get it right, you guys. Forget about going home. When you're home, speak to some of your constituents after your celebrations and pray to God that our country remains safe. All right, the other thing that is not getting enough coverage in the news is what is happening to Muslim women. And I have many friends who are Muslims. They live in this country and they are wonderful, wonderful people that are very patriotic to our country, but they still worry about what's happening in countries that their families may have fled from and all. Now, I'm going to speak specifically about Afghanistan right now and the Taliban. That was the most, excuse my language, screwed up withdrawal of any place that we've ever been. No man left behind. We left 100,000 people behind, and we let 13 of them, our service people, get killed at the gate during this evacuation. Horrible. We left billions of dollars worth of military equipment there. And what happened to it? They tore it to pieces. We could have flown it out. We could have had the trucks in there. We could have taken out the tanks and things like that if this had been organized. But no, we have to have television time and cover this wonderful thing, supposedly, that was being done. How wonderful is it? The Taliban swore to Biden and the generals that they would not do anything to hurt anybody, that it would remain the way it had been when our troops were there and the base was still open. Well, let me tell you how it is now. In the last 3 days, the Taliban has added another atrocity to women. The Taliban has forbidden and taken out by guard from the universities the professors, the women professors, and all of the women students. They took them all out, and they can no longer go to university. Then, yesterday, or the day before with the time change, the Taliban said no girl will be allowed to go to primary schools. So they will no longer be able to have a primary education. This is the dumbing down and the forbidding the rights of women to be educated. They're going back. This is why Iran killed that girl who took off her hijab when she was climbing and it was getting in her way. This is disgusting. And I'm going to have to just keep covering more and more of this because this is not right. And we have Biden and his cronies to thank for this. Does he really think that we're happy that he did this, that he ended the so-called war? It was a war. But did we have to withdraw like that? It hurts my heart so badly to think of these women going back to the Dark Ages. And not only that, they also put an edict in that a woman, well, first of all, she can't go anywhere. She's only a 50% human next to a husband or to any man. She only has 50% of the rights they have, and now she doesn't even have that. They are not supposed to go anywhere unless they have a chaperone, a male chaperone, following along behind them. And now they cannot get on an airplane to go anywhere unless they are accompanied by a man. I'm going to ask for your prayers for the women in Iran and Afghanistan and some of the other countries over there that are taking away women's rights. And it's not only in the Middle East, it's in places like China. There's many countries that take away women's rights, but right now we need to concentrate and help these women because I fear that there will be more deaths. In Iran, they've already arrested a very prominent movie actress, television actress, and they have sentenced her to death within the month because she was protesting for women's rights. Can you believe that? Do you think that would have ever happened to Gloria Steinem? You should stop criticizing the United States if there are some of you out there that do that or you have friends that do that, because you are so darn lucky to have been born here, immigrated here legally. We do have the greatest country in the world. And let's remember that over this holiday. Let's pray that God will take care of us and protect us and our rights as Americans. Alrighty, alrighty. So now, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, I've just finished up the wise part for the day, giving you my opinion. Remember, you're entitled to your opinion, but don't just start spouting off something that one of your friends said. If you don't believe it, search it, look at it, study it, and get your own opinion. And I'm happy to hear any of them. So let's move on to healthy. Now, I think one of the stories that is plaguing the people growing older is they're not interested in anything. They think that they're just have nothing left to entertain them. And that's why I'm starting this new group called Golden Years, Golden Fears. But today I just want to tell you, I want you to try to do in this holiday season, especially before Christmas and before New Year's, I want you to focus on things you're grateful for. Did you know the success rate for people in business and life is much higher if they show their gratitude and help other people with kindness, and that they're thankful that they woke up and saw the sky with the beautiful clouds in it the Creator gave us? Well, there's many other things to be grateful for, and I'm grateful for my friends that have helped me through my year of mourning. I couldn't have made it without them. I couldn't make it without my youngest and my best husband. And I thank him for that. I'm grateful every day that we met. And I want you to acknowledge and express your feelings. If you live alone, express your feelings to your girlfriends or your cousins or your brothers and sisters if you talk to them on the phone. Anybody, express your feelings. Tell them how you're feeling. If you're trying to keep your anger buried or resentment or depression, that's not going to help you. Now, I don't want you to become a whiny, but I want you to say, oh my gosh, today, friend, I'm so depressed. It's been a year since I lost my son, and it's the holidays again. But you know what? I can talk to my friend Vince because he lost his son and he's helped me through this. So don't keep your feelings buried. Tell your good friends and your family how you're feeling and why maybe you're a little short-tempered when the tree doesn't light up the way it should. Just express those things, get them out. It doesn't do any good to keep all of that hidden inside. But don't forget, one of your other feelings is gratitude, and tell them you're so grateful that they're here too. And I try to do that daily. It would be a good thing to decide to every day do a little act of kindness if you possibly can. It can be anything like telling the neighbor that the little grandchild is adorable. That just brightens everybody's day, and probably it is adorable. So remember the people that are less fortunate too, and do Toys for Tots and different things like that, and Wounded Warriors and Tunnel to Towers, and just all the charities that need to be remembered throughout the year, because our country is the country in the world that is the most generous with volunteers and giving money to those less fortunate. And this is taken a little bit from the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous group of people that have certain things that they live by. And one is to accept the things you cannot change. You can't change how maybe one of your friends drinks too much, or one of your friends is a girlfriend who does nothing but criticize how someone else dresses, or somebody who gossips. You can't change it. So if you want to be friends with them, overlook that. Don't make snide remarks all the time. Just don't you get into it. Don't you start doing that. You'll be a happier person. And always look for the silver lining in the darkest cloud, because with those big snowy clouds up there and the snow coming down. It's a horrible, horrible time. My gosh, think about the people in Colorado. The temperature dropped 50 degrees in 1 hour. It's a dangerous, dangerous time back there, but think about when the snow is still going to be there and the sun's coming out and those ski areas that are opening up that haven't had enough snow for so long. This is a blessing to them after they dig out, but be careful for all of that. But that's a silver lining. You're going to have daily challenges when you're growing older and you're growing older well. And you've got to figure out what's going to take up your time. So you need to have somebody you can talk to and laugh. You can laugh about how, oh my goodness, I'd love to put that skirt on, that mini skirt I wore in 1996. But guess what? I have sunspots all over my legs and I'm 75 and I look ridiculous. So laugh with your girlfriend. It's funny. It's funny that you kept it thinking you'd ever get back into it again. But see, I'm not one to throw things out. The shirt I have on today may not look fabulous on me anymore, but it's red and it's the Christmas season, and I bought it in 1996. I don't throw things out that are good. I do give some things away to people less fortunate because I want them to have things that they need, but some things I do manage to keep. So that's my little bit of news for you today on staying healthy, except for some things that aren't so good to help you grow older, bolder, healthier, wealthier, and wise. I want to tell you that there is a shortage of medications for children that are getting this flu, this respiratory flu, but you should try to let your immune system take care of it. Now, my daughter's a nurse, but I use her as an example many times because she knows what she's doing and she knows when it's dangerous and time to go see the doctor or take medication. So you have to be smart about this. But I'm going to tell you one more time, always see your medical advisor, your legal advisor, what have you. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. But we need to build up our immune systems again because we've been locked up for 2 years and not even catching a cold. So they were hit with the respiratory flu. First she was, and she of course had to stay home from work. You can't go around people when you're sick, of course. And she does wear a mask when she's on a crowded airplane or in a crowded building. And she wears a mask because she's now in assisted living management, and she wears a mask because she's a nurse and she doesn't want to get anybody there sick or her, even though we only have the surgical masks. They have masks that are a little better. So we need them to, our healthcare workers, to have that. But she got it, and then both her kids got it, and then her husband got it. So we don't even know if we'll be able to go celebrate Christmas with them because we're old, but we want to remain old and we want to grow older. So if we have to postpone Christmas to a little bit later, we'll just have our own little Christmases in our own little homes, and we'll probably do a FaceTime chat if anybody feels well enough to do it, and then we'll celebrate later. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your prayers and your worshiping or anything else, because there is a wealth of televangelists on television, pastors, priests. I'm sure there's even Jewish rabbis that can lead you through things if you're sick and you can't be with your family. So think about that and the shortage of medication. Let's build up our immune systems. Why I started telling you about my daughter is she never took the kids to the doctor. She didn't go to the doctor. She kept tab of everybody's smelling. She did take a COVID test, so she knew she didn't have COVID because she is out and about around other people in the hospital setting. But she did not have COVID. And they didn't have anything that would make you assume they had COVID either. So they fought it with their own immune systems and they have recovered. But her husband was the last one to get it. And now he's down for the count, but he's fighting it with his own immune system too. And he's on the road to recovery. But you at home need to keep a sharp lookout on your temperatures, because that's one good sign you're really sick if it's being elevated. And of course, if you're coughing up blood or anything else and you've lost your appetite and you're starting to lose weight, or you've got to get to a doctor or an emergency. Don't go to emergency, go to one of these trauma centers that we have all over now and have yourself checked out. One thing you need to really do is keep hydrated. That's going to help you a lot. Okay, so the other thing that's happening is some people are being turned away at hospitals and operating rooms because they haven't had the COVID. There's been a little girl who needed a liver transplant and they refused to operate on her and give her the transplant because she hadn't had the vaccination. She had already had COVID and she had survived it, and it was in her immune system. So she didn't really need the vaccine, according to the government. But this hospital refused it. Now I haven't heard the last of it. They were trying to figure out where they could go, who would take them. And then they were doing a GoFundMe page, trying to raise money to help these people get this little girl a liver transplant. That's the saddest thing. I just can't understand people, who, particularly these doctors, who I know are concerned about their own health. But they swore a pledge to take care of people and preserve life. So there's always something that is going against what you believe. My last tip for living healthy is don't spare the butter. I know you think I'm crazy, but here's the one thing. Do you leave your butter out on the shelf in the kitchen or on the counter in the kitchen or the table all the time instead of in the refrigerator? Well, here's the good news. Butter is perfectly safe to be left out of the refrigerator. It's not like other oils. It doesn't spoil. It doesn't have anything in it that will turn it rancid. It's actually healthier. So when you're baking those Christmas cookies, think about the butter. They're better than putting Crisco or some solid shortening in them. And the butter won't hurt you. Sure, it's only 100 calories per tablespoon. That's hardly anything. A tablespoon is not very big, but it sure makes a hot biscuit taste better and it makes a baked potato taste better. Just watch how much you're using it. It's better than the saturated oils that everybody went to during the 80s, because we need some saturated oils in our body to make it function correctly, to help your good cholesterol, to help your attitude because it tastes good. It also has vitamins in it that I'm sure you don't know they have in it. Now, there is the Mediterranean diet that says you should eat olive oil and all of that. And I agree. The Mediterranean diet is the best. But even in places like Italy and France, they know there's a time and place for butter. And it's on those fresh, hot croissants or that crusty bread coming out of the oven. And that's what you need. And nothing tastes better than mushrooms sauteed in butter instead of olive oil. Although I like olive oil, but get some of those good things that are in butter and leave it out. Leave it out on the counter so you can use it right away on your toast or your baked potato or whatever you're going to do. We do eat red meat once every 6 months or so in this house. Tonight we're having a little filet and we're going to grill it in butter. Oh, yummy. I can't wait. And then we'll be back on our fish for the rest of the month. We eat fish nearly every night, but we eat wild caught fish from Alaska that is processed immediately and shipped to us on dry ice. So I'm going to try to actually get that company to come on and talk to you about it, about their processing and all, because it's been a wonder for me and my husband, and it's the freshest I've ever tasted anywhere, except off the pole when you catch it in a stream. All righty, so now the unvaccinated blood is in high demand when people are going to the hospital and going to have an operation or something, and you have to give your blood, or you're going to be put down your blood type and all of that. And if you need a transfusion, they're demanding that they get blood that has not had any vaccines in it. So think about that. You can look up that information at Dr. Merkola's health site. And he is a wonderful doctor that I've known for many years. I don't know him personally anymore, but I did when I had my magazine in the natural food industry, natural supplement and alternative health and integrative health. So now it's time for a little Christmas cheer. And what I'm going to do is read for you and your kiddies, or you with fond memories of when you were growing up, or your grandkiddies. I want to read it to my husband. And here is this wonderful old poem that was written by a theology professor. And he didn't put it in his anthology of poems for a long time because he thought it wouldn't make him look as serious as a professor if he did it. But he did. He wrote it for his two little girls. And it's called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and it's by Clement Clark Moore, written in 1822 in New York, of all places. "'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads, and Mamma in her kerchief and I and my cat had just settled down for a long winter's nap when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, all. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly when they meet with an obstacle mounted to the sky, so up to the house the coursers they flew with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, Up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Don't forget to put those cookies out for Santa Claus. He likes the cookies, and he likes all kinds. He likes the sugar cookies and the chocolate chip cookies. He likes the decorated cookies. He likes the little rum ball cookies. And if you don't have any home baked cookies, well, you could put those Oreos out there or something else. Or maybe you just don't want to put any sweets out for him. He kind of likes apples and oranges and tangerines. Did you know that if you get a tangerine in your stocking with the leaves still on it, that means you're going to have good luck and fortune for the coming year. When I was growing up, my brother and I always had a tangerine on our stockings. Santa just knew to leave them to us. And when my children were growing up, they had the same thing. So carry on any kind of traditions you have in your family. Remember, it's for family and friends and celebrating the birth of Christ. And I wish you a Merry Christmas to all of you. I thank you so much for being with us. I love you all. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, remember, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Merry Christmas.